Sean, what year is that?
I don't know, man.
What are we looking at?
You know,
London, 1800, 1700?
I didn't pack the cowboy hat for the trip back east.
Is that how you go around in New York when you're in
That's
Manhattan?
that's how I roll.
You have a cane too?
I do have a cane.
Nice, nice. I like the look.
Self-defense. It's for
I like the look.
self-defense.
I like the look. I'm supporting LA here and prevent the wildfires.
There you go. Prevent wildfires. Yeah.
Yeah, with Smokey. It's good.
Smokey Bear. That's
good-
your
good
favorite.
friend
That's
of
your
mine.
favorite PSA, I think.
It is very, very effective. I wish we could do public service announcement that good
Right.
nowadays. And yeah, that went in the history. Still working, by the way. So there is a reason for
It's still
that
working.
because it's
Be
really,
curious to know how many times they've updated it.
I think they did quite a bit. Actually, when I was driving back,
Is there a rapping Smokey the Bear now?
I don't know that. No, probably not. But I can tell when I was driving back from Atlanta, we went through few national park in Utah, Arches, and to go there, we in Zion, we need to go to the Red Canyon, and that in the Red Canyon there was a lot of merchandise about Smokey. I even took a picture with Smokey, like
Did
a
you?
real size statue of Smokey
Yeah.
the Bear. Yeah, that. So I met Smokey. Go figure.
It's Smokey.
Yeah, and it was the classic, back in the days,
That's cool.
and then the way it looks now, and people love it. Kids and older people, and it's been making history in our culture.
It has. It
You
has.
know what else make history in our culture?
I don't know. Something food wise? No. I like food.
I know you always think food. I was thinking more like movies.
Ah, that's true. And they start in black and white, didn't they?
I see what you did there. I see what you did
Yes.
there. It did start in black and white. It started even without sound. Nobody was talking.
Right?
It was silent,
Music driven.
and remember that it wasn't even the music in the film earlier. There would be somebody sitting in the theater on some kind of an instrument, I guess an organ, a piano, or whatever it was, and they will play music according to what was shown on video, and that's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. I think certain I've told you about it. We may have even briefly talked about it on an episode before. But in Malibu, I went to an evening at somebody's house, somebody famous. I'm not going to mention the name, but
Did you sneak in, or you were
I
invited?
was invited to this one. And there are sneaking in versions of different stories, but this one was a proper invite. And
Love that.
it was a silent film.
Mm.
And in the living room were a group of about probably 30, 40 people, maybe maximum. We sat around watching the silent film with music performed by a live orchestra.
You never told me that. Or maybe you did, I forgot.
Now I'm telling you now, and it was quite cool, man. It was really something special.
This was actually an orchestra. Wasn't just
A small orchestra.
a
It
small
was an
orchestra.
orchestra playing a soundtrack
Love it.
to the silent film.
Love it. Soundtrack is actually one of the things I like to listen to when
Right.
when I'm working. It's a little bit. Sometimes it's classic. Sometimes it's electronic. Sometimes I like musicals. So that's another one that I enjoy listening. But I get distracted because then I feel like I want to sing it and live in the musical, and that's not
You get up
making
and
me.
sing,
It make me lose
belting out,
focus.
scaring the dogs with with your song.
Yeah, sometimes I wish that life was a musical. I think there've been a few episodes on some TV show that they did that.
You love La La Land, right? That was kind
love
of
La La
life
Land.
as a musical, if I'm not mistaken.
I love The Phantom of the Opera. I love Cats. I love West Side Story. I've seen a bunch of those. You know where? In LA. and it's not
LA.
Broadway, but it was a Broadway production. So we'll play both the East and the West
Yeah,
Coast.
we got both rolling. That's
Yeah,
true.
but you know what we got here?
What's that?
Well, because you're often in LA, but we have the Academy Museum, and that
I've not been yet.
is pretty cool. I was there a couple of times. The last time was actually this past weekend. We had some friend visiting, and there is this exhibition there where they change a few things here and there. It's often about costumes, but they have different room. And this one, which goes October 6th to July 13, and I'm not paid by by
It's
by the Academy
not a
for
paid
this.
position, but
No,
still cool.
unfortunately not. But I'm hoping I'll get an interview with the people that are managing the event and the exhibition there. It's this one in particular is color emotion, chromatic exploration of cinema. And what is really cool about that is you're in black and white. Sorry, I mirrored it. You're in black and white. I'm in color because this is all about the experience and the different psychological approach, the way that you film, lighting, direct, when you film in black and white or in color. And in particular, this is the going from silent movies to actually that were often, well, all of them in black and white. And then you move into color, and there is these old cameras, there is all these
Oh,
different technologies. Some lasted, some didn't last, and you can see how the color was applied, how they were actually technologically speaking, how they were filming, and then kind of like the study of colors and how director and filmmaker they use color to provoke emotions and enhance the experience. So for someone that loves that kind of stuff, I was pretty blown away.
that's cool.
Yeah,
Super cool. And Technicolor is there in Camarillo, right? I think were they part of inventing color film or something? If I'm not
could
mistaken.
could
I
be.
don't know. I don't know.
I
But the interesting thing, and I don't know where we're going to go with this topic and conversation, but I mean, we started black and white in film and photography for that matter, right? And then moved to color. And then I think, as a general rule, maybe I'm oversimplifying here, but when new stuff, current modern stuff is done in black and white, a lot of times it's done to project a time of the past. But I often feel that, because I shoot photography as well, I often feel that the black and white or the monochrome not just brings us back in time, but it could also present a different view, right? It gets you to focus on different things like shadows and maybe what's around the subject, or maybe the expression on the subject's face, where another, if it's in color, you might focus on the color of the shirt or something like that. So I don't know. It's an interesting thing for me to think about black and white
there,
and color and all
there
that.
is there is an art, I think, in that in certain cases because there was no option. Another case nowadays could be an option. I mean, I went to see still in LA a while back an exhibition about Ansel Adams talking about incredible lighting and
Ah,
black and white photography, and it just
and landscapes, which is my favorite,
yeah,
by the way.
landscape. I mean,
Yeah.
it just blows you away, and it's just black and white. I mean, I love black and white. It's really cool. I have some memories about black and white that I'm going to tell you. I'm going to share soon when we talk more about photography. But what's interesting about this old progress here in going from black and white to color throughout this exhibition is that there is costumes as well. So, for example, there is one of the most famous color thing in the movie
Was it
history.
was it filmed in black and white and then colorized?
Well,
Or
that's how they used to do it before. There was
okay.
people colorizing each single frame like they used to do with the cartoons and the Disney production. But
Or
no,
was it
no,
the one that started in black and white and then
there you go.
then they shifted and filmed in color?
You're getting there. You're
Hmm.
getting there. If you listen to Pink Floyd any time watching The Wizard of Oz,
Yes.
and you get to the museum, and one of the last thing when you talk about costume, like the green of the Joker, and the way that it applies the light, or the study of certain other color like pink and yellow when there is a portrait of a queen, Queen Elizabeth, I believe, and then there are many others. Even the jacket from The Shining, from Jack Nicholson, in that movie. But that's the sleepers from Dorothy. And the funny story is that they are red, but originally in the book they were silver. They turned it
Mhm.
red because they wanted to use the color as much as they
Interesting.
wanted. So the red on the yellow brick road. I mean, that movie was celebration of
Of the color.
colors,
Yeah.
and it's just amazing. Everything is so shiny the moment that Toto we're not in Kansas anymore, and
Right.
and it just blows your mind. So you actually get to see that kind of stuff.
Wow,
But
that's cool.
again, talking about going from black and white to color, we touched on Ansel Adams, and I think we're not videographer, nor me nor you, although we do watch movies, but we do have some fun with photography. You in particular.
I think
So
we both do. I think
yeah,
different in different ways, but we certainly both do.
yeah. So do you ever do black and white?
I have not shot in black and white, but I find that some of the photos I capture work really well in black and white.
When is that like landscape,
Uh,
portraits?
yeah, sometimes landscape. It's it's really where, kind of to my point earlier, where there's one that I took of, I don't know which building it is here in Manhattan, but there's one I took that had two or three cones, like street cones,
Hmm.
sitting on the sidewalk,
Oh, I think I
and
remember that.
and then the building has a bunch of square openings. Some have glass, some don't. And one version of it had the cones, and they're yellow cones, not orange. But one version had the cones in color, and then I turned it into, and the rest of it kind of was in black and white, just because
Mm-hmm.
that's the color of the building,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't really see the sky. So I turned it black and white, and it gives it a totally different feel. And you don't when it's in color, your eyes draw to the cones,
Mm-hmm.
and when it's not, your eyes are free to see the whole thing. And so, in my post, actually, I have to look it up to see exactly what I said. But the basic gist of the question is, what do you see when you look at this?
Mm. Yeah.
Some people see the cones, some people see the squares, some people see the angles, some people see inside the building, some people see the outside of the building.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool.
And it, because it's in black and white, you have, at least in my opinion, in this particular shot, you have the opportunity to see more than what I would want you to see if I put the cones in yellow.
So here's a good question, because when we do the digital photography and then we put it in Photoshop or any other program, it's easy to play around with it. But I'm wonder if you had only black and white, what would your approach to that particular picture would be different? I think the answer is yes, because I feel like if you just see in black and white through through the eye of the camera, I think you see something different. Like you said, maybe you
Yeah.
concentrate more on the lighting, maybe the
Uh-huh.
shadow, and instead in color, you go to the bright object that may be the cone in that
Right.
case. I think it changed the way that you approach photography when.
Yeah. Yeah. Lighting of the subject, lighting behind and around the subject. Um, you might see it differently if you're seeing it in black and white and framing it that way. Maybe I would have framed the sky,
Mm-hmm.
because I've maybe there's a cloud or the sun shining on top of the building or something that in
Yep.
black and white would have made it seem different. I don't know if it's
Mm-hmm.
better or not,
Yeah.
but yeah. And it was interesting you brought that up, because I was thinking, filming in black and white, do they costume and set set the and dress the set, I should say, um, for black and white, knowing that certain colors will provide in filmed in black and white will provide a different experience when viewed
Absolutely.
in black and white. And so that movie that transitioned from black and white to color, I was like, oh geez, all those costumes, right? If they actually had the slippers in silver, because it would have looked great in black and white. And
Mm-hmm.
then now those slippers, they wanted to take advantage of the color. Now they're red. Does that mean a whole new set of slippers? That all the costumes that have to change? I don't know if they talked about any of that in the display or not, but
Well, there's nobody really
no.
walking you through that. There's like small tags that you can read when you look at a camera or you look at a certain kind of technique to another. And there is, for example, one. It's more about experience it without too much explanation. Then you can go back and do your research. But that is more an immersive in general. Like you usually walk into a dark room with just the right lighting goes on the costumes, the right lighting goes onto certain part of the exhibition. There is an area where they talk about the use of the neon lights that sometimes you see in movies, especially if it's like sci-fi or something a little bit more futuristic. So you see those blue and red and yellow and how it's just like the discovery of how storytelling becomes also the game with the colors. Like colors itself kind of change the way you tell the story. It's kind of like the same thing in the photography. Um,
Uh-huh.
and they've always done that. I mean, there is one example that they look at really old silent movie from like the 1920s, I believe, and or maybe even earlier than that. And even at that time, they were still choosing certain film that was a tiny bit yellow or a tiny bit blue or completely dark or grayish according to what time of the day they wanted to represent. Like if it's a sunny, bright day on the beach, they will use a little bit of yellow. And now it seems kind of stupid, but at the time it was probably kind of like, wow, this is the future, right? And
Right?
so colors, it was kind of something I feel like they were trying to achieve because we look at the world in color. And I feel like the directors and the cinematographer being able to then say, well, I can portray what I see and tell the story the way I see it. I think it made a really, really big difference.
Yeah, and I think I mean with technology now, of course, you can take something black and white and make it color, right? You can take one color and change the color. You can easily turn something color into black and white.
Mm-hmm.
You can highlight an item within a scene, and everything's black and white except for that item. I actually captured a shot in Central Park a few years back where it was a gray autumn day, nearly winter, so it was kind of chilly. People had coats on and things like that, and it was fall, autumn, fall. So the trees, many of them were yellowish.
Mm-hmm.
The leaves were turning yellow and starting to turn orange and red and other colors, but the majority of them are yellow. And it was kind of grayish out. Walking, it was on the main road, or the main circle that circles Central Park on the road, and a crosswalk and a stoplight turning yellow, and a lady in a yellow, um, what do you call it, rain jacket.
Mm.
So these, I didn't have to do anything. It just captured
Yeah.
the yellow with the yellowish, with the yellow light, and everything else was just kind of gray scale already
Mm-hmm.
because of the weather, and the ground of the sky was gray, and the ground was grayish black, and so the yellows popped on their own.
Yeah,
It was pretty
that's
cool.
that's magic because it's
Yeah,
real. Like I
yeah,
used to do those effects when I used to do a lot of stuff in Photoshop, and it's like, you know, make a mask on maybe a yellow umbrella or anything like that. I think we did an ad together. That would, I
we
don't
did
know.
do that. We did do that. Yeah,
It just like ring a
yeah.
bell.
I think
Um,
there was a sheep ad too with
there was a sheep ad
The
too,
sheep
but
were numbered. Yes.
and colored,
And
if you
colored.
remember that.
Yes,
So
they were.
look at that, we're
Yeah.
reconnecting things. But I think what I was trying to say is the fact that you actually didn't have to do it in post production. You did it on the spot, and I think there is something about the the natural occurrence of that. And
It's pretty cool when those kind of things happen.
yeah,
It's
or
even
when you
more cool
actually
when you
look
can act.
for it.
You have to be, yeah. At least from I don't want to speak for other people, but I feel one has to be open to see it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Present to see it, not thinking about something else, perhaps. Um, and then I think it's something special to recognize it as a moment
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Yeah,
And
I know it's your favorite question to answer, but so is there more value again into something that is not digitally manipulated versus something that is 100% real? And then we can go into, well, that's real too, but I don't want to go there right now. That's for another show. But the fact that, and I think I want to say this because I know we kind of talked about eventually touch, and then maybe next time we talk about analog and digital cameras
Mhm.
and that kind of technique where with the film you get, you get what you get, you get what you take, and with digital then the old manipulation started. So in a digital world where everything is possible, artificial intelligence, then is there more value in to say I'm going to put a lot of time to get it right instead of thinking, I can always change, because that's the way I think. When I
Yes.
shoot, I want the right frame, but the way it's going to look, that depends on Photoshop or, or something else. But a real photographer, I think, it doesn't think that way, and I'm not a real photographer. So.
There are extremes. I've seen a lot of art shows here in the city, and I think art is in the eye of the beholder, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, value is in the eye of the beholder. Um, I can see. So there's the shots captured as it is. It's produced, printed, and displayed as it is. I think there's tremendous value in that. Then there are photographers that spend hours and multiple cameras and multiple frames and multiple shots and a lot of technology to produce a piece that is the size of a 5-story building in high res, full of brilliant color.
Mm-hmm.
And just all of that, in my mind, makes it beautiful and valuable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of artistry and creativity beyond just the shot. So clearly the shot is good as well, framed and lit and all this stuff, but you can tell it's super processed,
Mm-hmm.
but spectacular and beautiful as well.
But
Some of these things.
there was a choice in the earlier day too, because you could choose a certain kind of film that had more exposure, or that will capture the light in a different way. Maybe already has certain tonality, and then there is how you print it, the kind of paper that you use, and also the way you process it in the dark room. And
Well, even the
this
camera and the lens you choose
exactly. So
have
there is always
tremendous
a
impact.
choice.
Yeah.
You're never really representing reality as it is, but it's always through the decision that you make, and that's the beauty of any artist, even a sculpture or a painting. It's still it's the reality that you see or that you want to portray,
Yeah.
right?
And then there's a lot of this. I mean, even film, they do multiple takes, and presumably in the building is not going to change much. Maybe the lighting on the building might change. A landscape scene is not going to change too much. Might look different in the fall and the winter and in the spring, but generally it'll be the same. You might capture the sun at a different point in time to capture a moment. But then there's things like movement. Like I've done a lot of red carpet
Mm.
and
Oh, movement is a bitch.
sport photography, where
Oh,
you need a fast lens and a fast camera, and and boy, you better hope you have it focused and the lighting's good and you framed it
Mm-hmm.
properly. And shooting through a cage at an MMA is quite interesting because a
Yeah.
lot of times you might capture the actual cage and not the subject beating the
Mm-hmm.
crap out of somebody else. But
Yep.
so a lot of the moment, especially when there's a lot of movement involved, um, you have to be prepared for that too, and understand what you're trying to capture and when it's the right time to press the button. And do you capture one shot or 10 at the same time?
Mm.
Can your camera handle that and shoot the next one at the next moment that matters?
Yep.
So it's a lot of things to take into account.
Yep. It's that right moment, and that's kind of something that we could touch on to prepare for our next, or maybe in a couple of episode conversation. Yeah, again, the digital versus the analog, because sometimes it may be luck, especially when you do some fast movement. It's like, oh, I can't believe I got that shot. Other times you kind of prepare it. But what I'm thinking now is like nowadays you just shoot on repeat, right? Like 30 frames in like 1 second. Then you
Mhm.
look at it. Nope, nope, nope. Okay, this is a good smile, or this is a good walk on the catwalk, or this is a good jump of a horse or a run, and that kind of stuff. But I was in Berlin not too long ago, and I was staying very close to where the memorial for the wall is. And it's, first of all, it's an experience that everybody should have and make you think. But they have these huge photos on the buildings. I mean, they're not photos; they're printed pretty much on the buildings in black and white. And there is one that's very iconic, is this Eastern uh, German soldier that escaped before the actual wall. Because before being a wall, it was actually, more like a fence, a metal fence with the. Anyway, this guy is escaping. It's running, and there couldn't be a more perfect shot. I mean, the
Mhm.
expression on his face, the position of the rifle, it's like running for his freedom, and I'm like, all right, great shot. Also, I don't know, pretty, good luck too, just to frame it that exact way. And at that
Right?
point, it was probably, I'm thinking maybe it took 3, 4 shots, and one was just so iconic. Um, so I don't know. I'm thinking that with the digital, it's a
Mhm.
little too easy. A lot
I'm
of
gonna
people
I'm gonna
probably
mix
don't want to
something here.
hear that, but
I'm gonna mix something here too,
all right, go.
because context and environment
Mm-hmm.
also play a role, I think,
Yeah.
and even one's own personal frame of mind. Um, Somebody else seeing that same shot may or may not feel and see what you saw and have the same experience. And so I think you talked about if it's digitally manipulated or if it's a raw as it comes shot, does one have more value versus the other? I also think it depends on where it's going. So that on the wall inside of a building near the place where it happened,
Mm.
very different than
Oh
framed
yeah.
as a print inside of a doctor's office. Right.
Right. I agree.
So there are galleries, there are personal displays, there are um, office displays. There, yeah, I think, and different people in those different environments experiencing it will have their own
Oh yeah.
experience as well. So
Absolutely. I mean, it's the whole context. I agree with you. Still a great shot,
yeah,
nevertheless, but
yeah.
probably
I
enhanced
mean,
by.
some end up on the cover of Time and
Yeah.
things like
Yeah.
that, right?
No, that one definitely, it's one of those kind of shot. But yeah, it makes sense because it's even, you can apply that to
Did you see the one I got on Time magazine?
yours.
Yeah,
No, you should
yeah.
share
It's
it
not,
with
it's
me.
not there yet. It's
Okay.
coming.
I hope one of yours go there.
One day, one day.
Yeah,
Sorry to cut you
right.
off
No, no, no. Uh, well, that's another context thing, right? I mean, what I was referring to is like if you One show that I like to watch, me and my wife, when we don't have anything specific to watch, we just put Antique Roadshow on PBS. And, it's usually 5 minutes for someone to understand if their painting is worth anything, their vase, maybe Tiffany or Cartier watch or Rolex, whatever it is. But you're learning history, but also you learn that the value of those antique, they change in time. Like sometimes something in 2024 is worth that much, but in 2011 maybe was worth a lot less or a lot more. Maybe because the artist just died. Maybe because that time it's hot, a certain product or another. Or if you're selling an artist in the area where it maybe practiced and he was born and they depict into their painting and photography, it's usually worth more than if you go sell it somewhere that is not. Talking about context, that's pretty important too.
Yep.
So
and it makes me think, and I'm going to switch. It's the same metaphor, but I'm going to switch to music because I sent you a photo last night, a picture of a harpsichord.
Mm-hmm.
And
an
harpsichord, precursor to the piano.
Mm-hmm.
And
it was the pirate version.
It's the black and white version of the piano, which is the color version.
Oh, you mean because of the chromatic scale of notes that he could.
And just the sound and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as evolved as the so, and the scales are the way it's tuned and everything, and it's chromatic tuning and whatnot. And I mean, that picture, you look at that thing, you're like, that thing is a piece of junk. but in reality, it's old, and it's probably been the original legs probably disintegrated over time, and they put on. It looks like they stole them from a kitchen table somewhere. But
they could have done a better job of restoring.
They could have done a better job for sure. But I guess my point is that even in music, and I'm sure if we look at any art or trade or something, we can look at something and say that early version is kind of the equivalent to the black and white version of
maybe when it was also very very raw, right? I mean, look at the definition of a movie from even in color. If you watch a movie from the 70s, it's pretty much completely different than the kind of details that you get nowadays at 4K, 8K, whatever K we are nowadays. But when you put it into context, and that's another thing. Maybe we can talk about this another time. Like, look at the sci-fi. I love sci-fi. I love that kind of movies. And you look at one like, I don't know, look at Star Wars, the first one. You can't compare the special effect or a Godzilla from the 50s, but you need to put it into the context of when it was done. You can't just compare it with today. You need to say, when they filmed this, how freaking cool was that with what they had? And a good example to go back in black and white, I could say Casablanca. One day we decided to kind of look old movies, watch them, and I'm like, for 50 years I've never seen Casablanca, except for little frame here and there. And we watched the whole thing and it blew me away. Like, the story wasn't that fascinating to me, but the shadows and the black and white and the music and the interaction between people is just like, you finish that and you're like, that thing, it's a freaking masterpiece when you put it also into context of when it was filmed. It's unbelievable. So
one final point on the harpsichord, because I noticed that when one's performing on the piano, you'd play the chords, and typically you'd play, unless you're trying to do something special, you play all the keys of that chord in one, unless you're doing a run or something. And when she was playing a chord, I don't know if it was most of the time, but it certainly caught my attention that instead of pressing 3 or 4 keys at once, she would very quickly in succession, almost like they were together, but the 4 keys would be pressed in sequence, very very close to each other. But it would provide a instead of a dun 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 in a chord sound. You'd still end up with the chord sound as much as you can with a harpsichord, but she manipulated the sound by using her fingers more.
Yeah,
And
but
it was quite interesting.
isn't the harpsichord that doesn't carry, doesn't have the resonance of a piano?
Right.
And that's
It
probably
did more than I
why
expected.
you had to do one after another.
Right.
I'm thinking to prolong the effect of a chord. Well, if you
Right.
do it on a pipe organ in a church, that lasts forever, right?
Yep.
That's the beauty of it. You can build on the same chord, on
Yep.
with different notes, and the bass stays there. But in that case, makes you think, why was she pushing one after another? It still sound like a chord, but it wasn't necessarily.
Yeah, to get that little extra.
You play with what you got, man.
Exactly.
You play with what you got, and I
Yeah,
think
she was incredible.
yeah,
Yep.
and I think that arts and music and everything just change based on that. I mean, you could talk about skills of people driving Formula One. Look
That's
at
right.
a race in the 60s, 70s, and look at it now. Kind of boring, actually, but that's a story for another time. Sean, 36
Too
minutes
predictable. Yeah.
on a Friday afternoon. Maybe
That could be another
somebody.
topic. Is it predictable? Right? We talked about that earlier today too,
Oh yeah,
with my experience last night.
that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Well, I enjoyed this conversation. I
Yeah.
hope people do
I'm
as
gonna run
well.
out of hats, just so everybody knows.
You know what you do? Just turn it around. Like,
Where it
when
is.
you run
Yeah.
out of hats, just do this.
That's right. I'll hold it out for
And you're good.
donations.
Yeah, or put a sticker on that one. You can do.
There you
You
go.
can do that. No, I really enjoy this. This is what, number 3 of our
Something like that.
random and
Random
unscripted. We
and
didn't even
unscripted.
announce it at this point. We just like, we don't care, whatever. If you wanna
Well, that's the
listen
random
to
part.
us
The random
rambling,
part is we announce who we are and what we're doing at the end. I'm Sean, you're Marco.
I am
And this
Marco,
is
and you're
random
Sean.
and unscripted.
Yeah.
And I'm going to play us out with some fabulous music, Marco.
Did you compose this?
I composed for my song, or for my show.
That's true.
I did.
Well, stay tuned. Subscribe, share,
stay random, stay
stay
unscripted.
random, and stay unscripted, please.
All right.
Especially unscripted.
Peace out.
Peace.